May 28th, 2014 was the happiest day of my life. This was the day that my son Charles was going to graduate from the Air Force Academy. And I remember when he came running up those stairs, and when he grabbed me, he was trying to lift me off my feet, and he whispers in my ear, "Mom, we did it." 13 years earlier was probably one of the saddest days of my life. See, that was the day that my son Charles delivered the eulogy for his father's funeral. I remember him saying, "My father didn't die of a drive-by or drugs. He died a hero." See, his father was part of a team that was sent out in 2001 to search for the body remains from the Vietnam War. And there was a malfunction in the helicopter, and it crashed in the side of a mountain, killing all 9 Americans and all 11 Vietnamese soldiers that day. And I'm looking, and I realize at that point my son could instantly become a daunting statistic. Young black male in a single parent home who has a higher chance of, not going to school, dropping out of school, being part of a gang, using drugs, and probably never going to college. I had to figure out what I was going to do. Because just 2 weeks earlier than that, my son came home and he says, "Mom, I know what I want to be when I grow up." And I said, "What's that, Charles?" He says, "I want to be an astronaut. I want to go to the Air Force Academy." And I said, "Man, if you do that, you're going to leave a legacy in this family." But after that news, I couldn't leave it to my son to leave a legacy. I had to lead the legacy. See, when you lead the legacy, then you become inspirational. There's a difference between being motivational and inspirational. When you're motivated, then you react to what it is that you hear. But when that feeling fades, when you no longer can feel it or see it or touch it, then you lose motivation. But when you're inspired, then you respond because it's so deep inside that nothing and no one will ever stop you again. So it was at that time that I looked at my son and I said, "Man, I'm going to lead this legacy. And I'm going to do that by making a deal with you." I call it Action Pact. It was a pact between my son and I to take action on our education. I said, "I'm going back to school and I'm not going to stop until I have a PhD. Now, a PhD is like the highest degree that you can get in education. And I hadn't even started with my degrees after graduating from high school. I was in my 30s at this time. And I had to do something. I told him I was going to demonstrate for him what it is to be disciplined, dedicated, and determined. See, Dr. John Hope Franklin says that many of us have the ability to obtain several degrees, but few of us have the discipline to gain one. And I needed to show that to my son so that he knew what to do, so that he could get through peer pressure, so that he could get through school, so that he would never give up, so that he could go to the Air Force Academy. So the journey began. The first thing I did is I came up to Pikes Peak Community College. I'm talking about the same college that I actually am working at now. And when I went in, I had to take a placement test, but I didn't score high enough to get into the lowest remedial courses. I couldn't believe it because I thought, I've graduated from high school. I went to the military. I fought in Desert Storm. What has happened? My skills were just not there, and I needed to build them. But I couldn't give up. So my son is looking at me wondering, "Well, Mom, what are you going to do?" That's when I decided to go to an alternative school. And this alternative school was filled with 7th and 8th graders, just like you. But I went anyway. And when I went, I had to pick up my skills, but I did. And next thing you know, I'm entering the doors of the community college. That was exciting for me. But I had all kinds of people coming out of the woodwork. My haters had to become my motivators. I had people telling me, "Listen, it's either me or that degree." I said, "Well, see you later." Because I was inspired. I knew that this is what I had to do. And everywhere I went, people saw me with 2 things in my hands. That was my books in my hands and my son's hand. I don't care if I went to the dollar store, the grocery store, the hairdresser, everyone saw that. And next thing I know, I'm building up my skills. I'm working. I'm going into the math lab, the computer lab, the writing center. I'm getting a tutor. It didn't matter. Whatever it was going to take. And then I built what I call my success entourage. These are people who care about you even when you don't care about yourself. I had my mother there who, when I didn't understand what I was reading, she would read those books to me. It was my sister that when I had to type a paper and I could not type, she would type them for me until I picked up the skills and could do it myself. I had amazing people that were there in support of me. We can't do it by ourselves. We have to have other people that are going to be there with us. So the journey continued. And next thing you know, I'm graduating from the community college. I went on from there and I went in to get my bachelor's degree. I went to UCCS and it was fantastic. I got 2 degrees, one in psychology and one in communication. I kept going. I got my master's. And when I got my master's, I graduated with distinctions. Me, I did that. And now it was time. I was in my PhD program. And believe me, it wasn't easy. When you go into a PhD program, you have to write this paper, and it's hundreds of pages long. And now I'm at that point where I'm trying to write the paper, and I'm struggling. But time is against me at this point, because I only have about 8 months before my son's going to graduate from high school. I couldn't break the pact. I had to do this. When I turned in my paper, they marked it up and they told me I failed. They told me I had to rewrite it. So I took it back and I rewrote it again. Now it's January. I'm supposed to graduate by May because my son is going to graduate right behind me. And I turned it in and they said, you need to do it again. So I took it back again. Now it's February and I'm rewriting it again. I turn it back in and they tell me I have to rewrite it again and again and again and again and again and again. I rewrote my dissertation 24 times. That is called persistence. That's when you don't give up because you're so inspired that nothing and no one will stop you. And before I knew it, I was graduating. It was 6 days before my son was graduating from high school. He got to see what very few children in his position ever get to witness, and that was his mother graduating and obtaining her PhD. That day when I walked in, I sat there and I was getting ready to walk up on stage when they called me, Dr. Regina Anita Lewis. And as I looked up in the crowd, I saw this big yellow sign that said, Dr. Regina Lewis, and it was being held by not just my son, but the people from the dollar store, the grocery store, the hairdresser. Everybody was holding this sign. I cried up the stage, across the stage, and back down the stage. And then somebody asked me, did I want to take my picture? I was like, are you kidding me? I was crying. I looked crazy. One lesson, never cry ugly. Learn how to cry cute. But I did it. Then 6 days later, I'm getting dressed to get prepared to go to my son's graduation. And he says, Mom, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, sure. What's up, Charles? And he says, you know that big yellow robe you wore for my graduation? I said, absolutely. He said, don't wear it to my graduation. I said, why not? He said, because you look like a big bumblebee. I said, that's exactly what I was trying to do. I said, because a bumblebee bumbles along, never flying in a straight line, but it always hits its target. I said, and according to the law, a bumblebee shouldn't be able to fly because its wings are paper thin, too thin to carry its heavy body, but it does it anyway. And he was like, I'm impressed, but don't wear that big yellow suit. I said, okay, fine. So I ended up wearing this beautiful celery green suit with eggplant shoes. It was just gorgeous. So we get to his graduation, and it just seemed like the parents were clapping with 3 fingers when their child was walking across the stage. It was like, good job, Johnny. Nice job, Sarah. I was like, you wait till Charles gets up in here. So all of a sudden, now it's Charles's turn. The principal calls his name, Charles Edward Lewis III, and I like to lose it. I was like, that's my baby. And as he's walking up to the stage, he kind of throws me a little salute. And they said Charles has been accepted to the Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy, West Point, Purdue, Embry-Riddle, 9 prestigious colleges they named. Now the tradition is that when you finish, then you get a rose that you're supposed to bring down to your parent. Well, Charles managed to get 2 roses. I was like, that's my boy. But as he's walking towards me, he turns around and I'm wondering, where is he going with my roses? But then he tosses them behind him. So later I ask him, Charles, why did you do that? And he says, Mom, who could I have given him to? We stand on the shoulders of others. We do. We don't do this alone. You get people who care about you. You get people who are going to believe in you when you do not believe in yourself. You get people who believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. That's how it's done. And you have to be more than motivated. You have to be inspired.